give it a lot of thinking, give it a lot of research going into the NCERT syllabus before choosing your subjects.
Very well said, ma'am. I think NCERT is the key that you highlighted. A lot of students we know are running here and there thinking of what more can help them change their lives. But I think the key has always been inside that school bag within those NCERT books. So very well said.
Sure.
Anita ma'am, may I please request you also to give us a little insight on what you feel on the relevance of stream selection?
Stream selection. Thank you, Neha. Stream selection is very important. In fact, rightly said by Jayashri ma'am, is very crucial step. It's a stepping stone. If you are able to select a right stream, I think you are sorted. So many times we see a child has not selected the right stream and the child pays the consequences. So your career goals, your interest has to be in sync.
So I pick up two very relevant points from what you've said, ma'am. You've said career goals and interests. We will be talking largely on these topics also as we proceed through the webinar. But before that, Dr. Venkatraman, your comments on the importance or the relevance of stream selection, please.
I think selecting the right stream would begin from, I think keeping the end in mind, I need to set my, journey. So selecting the stream is actually setting a tone to my life, to my career. If I were to be dreading a Monday morning every day or, start wondering about when I would go for vacations, I think that's the worst thing to happen. I think key to success, like what Jayashri ma'am and my other co-panelists mentioned, I think it's all about success of life. And if you are just in the right career, I think you don't have anything more to ask for. So it is super, super crucial to choose the right stream, because that is what sets the tone to your life.
Absolutely, ma'am. I think you've reminded me of Stephen Covey. He always says, begin with the end in mind. And that's what I heard you say as well. And I think somewhere, ma'am, we, as a community of students that I represent today, I think we do have the have started getting a very fair idea about the importance of that backward calculation. Because it was always looking ahead and probably class after class as a routine. And then they suddenly landed in 10th where they were handed out a sheet of paper and said, okay, decide. But with the whole concept of look at it backwards, I think, yes, we see minds opening up indeed. That's a great point. So, Dr. Bhargav, going back to you, these are some crucial questions that we would like to understand at a school level. Because these must be grassroots issues for all of you. So please help us understand, is there a criteria for stream allocation that's adopted by schools? I mean, is there a kind of a guideline given by CBSE or some board which says this is how you can allot, or how does a school go about it?
See, basically, there is no guideline given by CBSE, Neha. It is individual schools who set their guidelines. That for science students, the highest percentage holders normally go for science, although the trend is changing nowadays. More and more are opting for humanities. So the schools set our percentages, that for science, the cutoff percentage is this. For commerce, it is this. And rest go to humanities. But as I said, it's changing nowadays. So it's from school to school that they set their criteria for letting the students select. But if I may add to it, it depends on us leaders and the teachers to guide the students in selection of their choice of subjects, because they need to understand if they have scored well in science in class 10 doesn't mean they'll do well in science, because the general science of 10th is far, far different from the physics, chemistry, biology of class 11. So that is not a platform or a guarantee that if they have scored 100 out of 100 in science in 10th, they should opt for science. So we will deliberate on it more, but CBSE has not given any guidelines for admitting students to various streams.
think that's an eye-opener, ma'am, because when we do parent sessions, parents are under this belief somewhere that these are very strict CBSE guidelines, and a school is also, dependent on them and they can't do much. But I think for every parent who's listening to us today, this is a very crucial point raised, that it is up to a school. And I'm sure the school also functions in the best interest of the student. It's not that there's a certain bias which comes in. But looking at the demography, looking at the past records, maybe what the students' preferences might be, I think, ma'am, that's the large criteria that the school must be following.
Neha, if they are our students, that means they have studied 10th in our school. We know their strengths and weaknesses. We have been guiding and we can guide them. But if they are coming from outside, then the marks and when they appear for an entrance exam in a couple of subjects, that's the only criteria. We don't know what their preferences are, what they excel in. So it is only on the basis of the 10th class marks that we take the outside students.
So I think this also gives out a very important message to everybody who's thinking that now boards are not very important. You can have an edu leader tell you that what you score in 10th is going to be the deciding criteria for a lot of things in your life. So be careful. Thank you so much, Jayashree ma'am. I move to Dr. Venkatraman with a very interesting question. Ma'am, we see that there is a mismatch in the demand and the supply when it comes to stream. There'll be a lot of them saying we want science, at least to begin with in the year. Later, the choices may change, as we know as counselors as well. But what do you think is the reason for this kind of a mismatch? Mostly we hear schools say, no, only these many seats. Oh, how does that justify it? Or for any ma'am, topic, I'm so sorry, the subject, stream, I may want to know, yes.
Yeah, typically the mismatch is because, no, there is no such mismatch because what we do is, in my school, suppose I have 6 divisions, then 4 are typically dedicated to science and 2 for commerce. So I don't offer humanities in my school. So having said that, there is a reason to it, okay? Once you are like for a child, like what Jayashree ma'am mentioned about children doing well in 10th standard, maths and science do not necessarily do well in 11th. Because in 11th standard, you are actually treated as a student of science, a student of math. Whereas in 10th standard, you are treated like a child who is wanting to, complete his basic education. So the perspective itself, that's a total paradigm shift that happens. So having said that, not many children are able to cope up. But then the fact remains that once you are a student of science in 11th and 12th, you have an option to move to humanities, to commerce after 11th and 12th. The other way is not possible. Once I choose commerce, it's not going to be possible to get into science.
Absolutely.
So majority of times, I think this is also one of the primary reasons why children opt for science. And not only children, in fact, including me, because I have, this is a time when I do one-on-one with every 10th standard child of my school. So I sit with the child, I understand as to what has been his challenge, her challenge, in presence of the parent, of course, then counsel, then there are teachers telling me about his strengths and his weaknesses. So then I find myself counseling that, and then in case the child is indecisive about his career, then I tell him that, yes, you have 2 more years to go. So it's just about fine. At the age of 16, I think it is not just to expect a child to know his career path.
Totally agree, ma'am. Totally agree with you. And I think it's, I would like to commend the current generation for doing it so beautifully. If I go back to my age at school, we were never luckily succumbed to this kind of pressure. It was a very simple, uncomplicated kind of choice that was available, and one knew by the time you hit 10th that what you wanted to do and which was your way ahead.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the amount of pressure that they handle, whether it's self-created, whether it's peer, whether it's parental. Difficult to comment, but they are doing a great job at managing the multiple opportunities that are available.
Yeah, if I were to go by the ratio, I think it is some 6:10, like 4 children out of every 10 children know what their career path is.
Yes, that's very well put,
There are
ma'am.
6 children who would come and tell me, I'm still not decided, but I'm going to take up science for getting the advantage of 2 more years to decide on my career. Yeah.
While, ma'am, I think nothing is right or wrong, but I think as a counselor, I always tell students that I have a fondness for children who say I'm confused. I get a little worried when I meet children who are very clear nowadays, because my concern is, are they losing out on those hundreds of options by shutting down themselves only to that one?
Absolutely. You hit on the nail. You are absolutely right. And many a times you are also, pondering about what led them to hook onto that career. Was it
Absolutely,
the
yes.
glamour that the career has, or was it their genuine interest?
So we will have to speak more on this webinar, ma'am, I think, because I'd like this information to reach our listeners. But
Sure.
meanwhile, thank you so much, ma'am. Anita, ma'am, I'd like to ask you again a very relevant question. How early do you think the stream or the career awareness conversations should begin? How early in their school life?
This is a very subjective question. I mean, but the best time to give the stream selection, I mean, the options, this awareness, I think this after elementary school, after say class 8th. And when the children, they know about the various subjects, by this time they are mature enough. I mean, they know what are the languages, their proficiency in languages, how well they can do, if they are doing very good in sciences, if they have good aptitude in, reasoning and conceptual things, if they are very interested in the social sciences. So I think this is a good time to give the career counseling sessions by the expert. I mean, from the outside, the children can be exposed to such kind of sessions.
So I think that's the reason why, ma'am, we've seen schools have started inviting counselors
Yes.
at an early stage now to
Yes.
open conversation at least.
Yes, yeah. But many people have different opinions. Some people say, right from class 1, even in the kindergarten school, children are so set these days, even in the primary sections, they know some of the children are very well sorted these days. They're so focused. मुझे तो डॉक्टर ही बनना है, मुझे तो बड़े होकर शेफ ही बनना है. Like sometimes children come to my room for the birthday, I mean, toffee or the chocolate, and I always ask them one question: what do you want to become in your life? And they tell me, I want to become a chef. Mega, are you so sure? Yes, I will become a chef. So just imagine a class 2 or 3 child. He's so clear, right in from this age, 6 or 7 years old. But
so I think, ma'am, 2 views to this. One is
Yes.
this shows the amount of exposure that the child has to be able to say,
Yes.
want to be a doctor or an engineer or a chef at the age of.
But the best time to start this
7.
career guidance is after elementary school. I think the children, there's a good age. I feel it is a good
fair
age.
point. So parents, I hope you've heard this. If your child is somewhere around elementary school, at least the conversations around
After
careers
class 8.
can start. Yes, they must start. And if nothing else, as a family sitting together and deciphering what is the interest area of the child could be a great idea. With this, Jayashree ma'am, I'd like to ask you a very interesting question. From an educator's perspective, what do you think is the role of a parent when it comes to stream selection?
As we say that mother is the first teacher of a child, so also the father. And I would say that the pressure building, first of all, starts from the parents. The parents play a very, very important role. See, your grandfather was a doctor. I'm a doctor. Such and such relative is a doctor. So the legacy would be carried on by you. You need to become a doctor, irrespective of what the interest of the child is. So here comes the pressure building. And that is why what we hear day in and day out every year, so many casualties in Kota. The real reason is the parental pressure. At the same time, I'll share something with you, the open-minded parents. I have a friend who's a leading doctor, a head of the department in medical college. Her husband is a leading doctor, and their only son, who, although they wanted him to become a doctor, but let him pursue what his interest was. And today he's an international wildlife photographer.
Wonderful.
So that is the role of parents. They are the first people to understand what the interest of the child is. What can they do well in? Because if you see the child scribbling on the walls at the age of 5, what Anita ma'am said, they are focused, they want to be a chef. I have a different opinion. With every social media interaction or every movie that they see, their goal changes.
Absolutely.
Today, they want to be a superhero. Tomorrow, they want to be a chef because they have seen Master Chef. So at that age, it keeps changing. But I fully agree with her that class 9 is the stage where they should be given to exposure to career counseling. But parents play a crucial role. I'll share, long time back, of course, it happened, but I'll share another incident which I faced as a principal. A couple came to me, they had twins. Dr. Venkatraman is not there. So, Ms. Anita, the
Yes,
children were 2.5 years of age. And the parents wanted to put them in class nursery. And I was insisting that they wait for 6 months. And do you know what their reply was, Neha? मैम 6 महीने में तो हमारा बहुत नुकसान हो जाएगा, आगे चल के बेटी को डॉक्टर बनाना है, बेटे को इंजीनियर बनाना है. अगर 6 महीने पीछे हो गए तो ये पढ़ाई के बाद 5 साल इंटर्नशिप और वो सब करके ये जब कमाना शुरू करेंगे और रिटायरमेंट होगा तो ये 6 महीने पीछे हो जाएंगे. This is long-term planning, but absolutely useless planning. So
Yes.
I'm saying this is the mindset of a few parents, and this is how the parents play an important role in helping the students select their streams after class 10.
Neha, I would like to add something here.
Sure.
I just, in continuation with Jayashree ma'am, I think parents need to have a very realistic approach. They need to have a realistic approach, and they should not impose their aspirations on their children. So they have to understand this, like Madam said, it is not essential that doctors will have, doctors, the next generation. They have to understand this. So parents counseling, sensitizing parents is very, very important. Very important.
So you've actually led us to our next question, Anita ma'am. So I'll ask you only to continue. My next question was, what do you think is the role of a school in sensitizing parents then? Now that we've recognized the problem, and I think all of you are seeing it much closely than we are from the other side. You're facing it day in, day out.
Yes,
sitting
yes.
in this chair. So what do you think is your role, and what kind of an impact can you have, on
Yes.
the parent community through?
Yes, Neha, we can definitely sensitize parents through some of our actions, like during the PTA meetings, especially after class 8th, when we declare the result, we tell them to take up this psychometric test, which is a very scientific way of, testing. We tell them, because most of the parents are not aware, what is this all about? They have not heard, the business class people, what is this psychometric assessment? We tell them, okay, when you can take your child for these kind of assessments, which will assess your child's aptitude and the other skills. One. Second, we also, from time to time, the school counselors and the subject experts and from the industry, also the career counselors, we organize sessions for them. That is a very regular part. At least one session in month is there, So that calendar is, prepared right in the beginning. So this is, sensitized, parents can be sensitized like this through the, programs like the team meetings, during the PTMs, telling about, exposing them to various kind of assessments which are available in the industry.
Yeah. So I couldn't agree more, because we at RevPro also are known for our psychometric testing. And we've actually seen, how confident a child becomes with something that is so
It's
scientific.
a scientific method, yes.
And I always say this when I speak to students and parents in my workshops. I always tell them, sadly, I don't know how much you'd all agree, but I tell them, you can buy your children Levi's jeans at the age of 5, when they're in 5th, 6th, you will give them iPhones. They will only wear Reebok and Adidas. I'm not judging parents. I'm saying that's the love that you have for them. They'll go to the best doctors, best boutiques, best salons, but they can't go to the best career counselor or an expert to take a simple, scientifically validated test and say, okay, I'm confident that this is what I am built for. intrinsically, you know, this is
Neha,
wisdom where my
one thing more. Like we also have these days, you must be knowing better than me. We have graded kind of assessments, psychometric assessments.
absolutely.
So they can take
Yes.
it after class 8th, 9th, and 10th. So that can strengthen,
ma'am.
you know, their decision making.
That's a great idea.
Thank you. You're not audible,
Yeah.
Neha.
Dr. Venkatraman, this question's for you. I'd like to understand, since we're talking about the importance of sensitizing parents and we're talking about informing children in time, and probably it's a journey that begins after elementary school, like everybody's saying. What do you feel about the importance of the establishment of career development centers in schools? Should it be a mandatory additional arm, you know, with a particular curricula in place to kind of guide students? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a very good idea. In fact, basically, ultimately, we want to ensure that my children, my students remain happy in life. I think that is the basic objective. And when I know that getting the right career is the key to happiness, I think this is super, super important. So even in our schools, you know, even while the child is in grade 1, 2, 3, so we have a multiple intelligence report card, which we generate every year. So basically, you know, it is also to convey to parents about the child's skill sets and interests and slowly develop on it. So over a period of time, a parent actually starts realizing that the child has a specific interest in a specific area. Like, for instance, today I just met, while I was just talking to you about the one-on-one, there is this child who's actually super brilliant. He is a 90 plus scorer, even while the prelims scores are just out. And he is super musically inclined. Now, the father is very, very keen, and I'm sure so is this child. He says, I don't want to get into science. I want to pursue music. Okay. And I also want to appear for UPSC exams. So I am interested in, maybe taking up humanities, because humanities taking up that is going to enable me to pursue music parallelly. So even, these are all talents that the child has, which gets nurtured over a period of time. And parents are aware of how to, ensure that scope of that particular skill or the talent that the child has developed over a period of time is sufficiently supported.
It becomes a journey. I think with your, especially the kind of report cards, ma'am, that you're talking about handing out, it's a very progressive journey, and you're observing the child's learning graph, interest graph, and it must be a certain eye opener. So I think it's a great practice for the other schools which are not practicing it already. So that's a heads up for the others listening to us today. So, ma'am, you've actually opened I would say the can of worms by saying he wants to take up music after opting for science. So I'm going to Dr. Bhargav back and asking her a very, again, I'm in love with this question. I get it all the time. We have it's a world of social media influencers, of bloggers, of YouTubers, motivational speakers. There are trending reels, and there are trending videos, and that's what is happening all around in the world. What kind of onus does the school take now in guiding the students with such kind of aspirations? What should our message be?
Neha, our message would be, listen to your inner self.
Beautiful.
What are your interests? And the interests are not directly proportionate to the subjects, to the marks that you get in various subjects.
So true.
There may be various influences all around you. There may be parental pressure, there may be peer pressure, there may be social media pressure, but then you have to be strong to go by your inner gut feeling as to what you need to do.
So true. Right.
Along with the stream, I would say, Neha, the subjects opted in that stream also need to be given a lot of thought, because it is not just physics or maths that you are going to attempt. It is also chemistry, it is also English, it is also the fifth subject. And I would like to dwell upon this fifth subject, because the cumulative score of all these counts for your admission into any college or any higher education institute. So if you are going for the medical or the engineering stream, make sure that the fifth subject is a lighter one so that you can focus more on your PCM or PCB.
Absolutely.
So the fifth subject plays a very crucial role. And even if you are super intelligent, I'm taking the word super from Dr. Venkatraman. So even if you are super intelligent, try your level best not to opt for a sixth subject just because all the intelligent students do that. Focus on your three main subjects and English and a lighter fifth subject, and excel in what you want to achieve, on what your focus or your ultimate goal is. So
Excellent, ma'am.
there may
Excellent.
be pressures, but we need to make our students strong enough to go by their gut feeling.
And I think, ma'am, wonderfully answered. You also answered a very crucial question around the sixth subject that a lot of children are asking, and what should the choice of the fifth subject be? I'm going to twist this question a little. It's not really a part of the script today, but Anita, ma'am, I'm going to come back to you for this, because this will make the conversation very interesting. So Dr. Jayashree said that the fifth subject could be lighter, so that you could focus on the four. My question is, suppose a child knows I want to make a career in physical education, or the child knows that I want to make a career in fine arts or music or home science, which are mostly the choices of the fifth subject, computer science. In such a case, do you think the child should actually focus more on the fifth and take a lighter set of other four subjects? I mean, of course, one is going to be English, but why will the child actually get into the physics, chemistry, mathematics kind of a game when the student knows ultimately I want to get into physical education or music? So do you think that can also be a way of selecting your stream?
No, I mean, see, it depends upon stream. If a child has opted medical stream, then of course the child has to select the fifth subject, which is very easy. So that child can can give more time to physics and chemistry, like the biology students, the NEET students who aspire for the NEET, they usually take the fifth subject. They don't even take mathematics. They drop maths. They just take biology, physics, chemistry, and English, maybe food, nutrition, and dietetics, or any vocational subject. Let me add here, we have now a whole lot of vocational subjects also, which also help. For example, in case of medical stream, they opt for food, nutrition, and dietetics. It also helps them, supposing if they're not able to get through in the medical entrance examination, so they can also go to this nutrition part. So fifth subject can be kept, lighter in such cases, in engineering cases, those who are aspiring for engineering. But like you are speaking, if the child is very interested for the physical sciences, the physical games or the sports. So in this case, I think there's no relevance of keeping fifth subject light, or he has to do, he has to give a lot of time to all the subjects.
So I'll probably go a step further to explain the question better, ma'am. What my question here is that a lot of parents will say, even if you want to get into physical education, as a career, please take PCM, so that if you don't make it to a sports team tomorrow, or you don't get into, get onto the playing ground, literally, at least you have PCM as a backup. But I have a lot of children coming to me and saying, ma'am, I have no interest in PCM. My interest lies in being a sports person or doing something around sports. It could be sports psychology, sports mercantile, sports nutrition, sports fit. There's so much that's happening today. But somewhere, do you feel, ma'am, we still need to change the parental psyche and stop telling, to stop telling?
In this case, the case you are referring, parent psyche needs to be changed. The child is interested in sports.
Yes. So which means he should be given a fair chance, parents.
Yes,
I'm going to be the devil's advocate here on the webinar.
Yes,
Dr. Venkatraman, if you're there, I'd like to ask you the next one. So ma'am, again, this one is coming to you. Why? Because you say that the school is now focusing on science and commerce. But lately, ma'am, we've seen a huge shift. We've actually seen that the 10 CGPAs are asking for humanities, or, the toppers of the school are saying we want to opt for humanities. And the others who have probably been in love with the science, truly been in love with science, or are typically thinking of engineering or medicine, are taking science. So in such a scenario, what would your advice be, ma'am? Would you still say there is a hierarchy, science, commerce, humanities, or would you say
No,
break the
no,
shackles?
I never said that. See, basically, ultimately, it's not about, it was more to do with supply and demand. Okay, I mean, I am basically a humanities person. I did my, master's in English, and I am also a music person. So basically, it's like I would love my children to take up humanities, but I see very, very less children opting for humanities. So reserving resources for humanities became a challenge when it came to, so I mean, moving forward, if I see more and more students opting for humanities, I would definitely open up that arm for my children. So the schools typically respond to the demands.
Certainly. Certainly, ma'am, I wasn't actually meaning to say you. I meant as a, as an
Agreed.
educator. I would
Agreed,
want
agreed.
to put forth that, do you think humanities also holds as good as...
Absolutely.
Yes.
I do advocate, because being a person from the same background, I would want my children to actually fall in love with the subjects that humanities have to offer.
And I'm very happy to have this answer from you, ma'am, because I don't want anybody listening to us on this webinar to think that there is a choice that we've taken out humanities because it's less important or less viable.
No, no,
So
no.
it's, I think, to do with demography and the interest of the children around in that place, which will completely help a school to decide what kind of streams to offer. So I totally agree with
Absolutely.
you there, ma'am.
Yeah.
So wonderful, ma'am. I'm going to shift the perspective a little now towards the last phase of the webinar. And I want to pick up some questions which the students are asking and pass them on live to you. So I'll start with you only, Dr. Venkatraman, before I pass this on to others. There's a student who's saying that I don't know how to go about my stream selection. Should I just consider my liking for a subject or choose a stream as per my career goals, which are very different than my liking? So this is this is a question that's come to you, ma'am.
I think it all starts with liking. Okay, I mean, what I do typically is I get my children draw two concentric circles. Okay, there is one circle which will have all the things that the child likes doing. Okay, so let the child put in all the subjects that he or she likes. The inner circle should actually have all the subjects that the child not only likes, but is much better than others in the class.
Absolutely, ma'am.
So
yes.
He starts actually knowing that these are the areas which he likes doing, but he is much better than others. So that becomes his USP. It's like, and possibly that will help the child sieve out the best subjects of his choice, and then ease to make the right career. Like, for instance, I never knew I'm going to be a principal. Okay, but when I started my journey, I used to be good at languages. I used to be good at math. I used to be good in music. And I can assure you that in my present assignment that I use all the three.
I'm sure. Yes. Very well said. So I think that's also a learning for all the parents, students on the webinar. That's a great tool to actually try today after the webinar. Please sit with a sheet of paper, draw your concentric circles, and see what fits where. So wonderfully answered, ma'am. Dr. Bhargava, this one's for you. I would, could you throw some light on some very rare combinations that are available now for students to at least think about? Everybody knows there's a PCM and PCB and maybe a computer science. So some rare combinations that you could highlight, please.
See, in this aspect, the CBSE has now opened avenues for all the education 4.0, the future of education. So lots of subject choices are being given by CBSE, whether it is entrepreneurship, whether it is even the long forgotten, the typewriting, all that is now sewing, painting, all forms of sculpture, painting, all these choices are being given. And they can be taken as the fifth subject with any of the streams. Dr. Venkatraman just mentioned, and if it is not out of place, I would like to mix many of your questions and give my example or my parents' example. I always wanted to be a teacher. And this is a parent of the 1960s and 70s. I wanted to be a teacher, and English was the subject closest to my heart. Still, I'm a science graduate. I had science in higher secondary. I'm a science graduate. And thereafter, for my post-graduation, I took up the subject close to my heart, which is English. In the meantime, as you mentioned, I learned dancing. I am a national basketball player, avid traveler. Thanks to my father, he used to send me for all school excursions. And anything that I could lay my hands on, because he said, even if you want to become a teacher, you need to have a scientific temperament. So that came from the undergraduation, the graduation, and then pursue the subject of your choice. So this is what is coming back in various forms. And I'm sure you would ask within the next few minutes. We give ample time to the student to change the subjects also, change the stream as well as change the subjects. The student has full July, August month to think about it and submit an application for subject change, which the CBSE agrees. So there are a lot of choices being given today for the student to pursue the career of his or her choice.
Anita ma'am, taking
And
this
choosing these subjects, the hyped about careers, whether it is a content writer, a commercial artist, whether you want to go for go as an investment banker, all these options are given at the 11th and 12th level. Software development, aviation, all these options are being given. Options to pursue these careers in future.
So which means we have, the whole thing in place now, thanks to the NEP stepping in. So,
Yes.
which means the idea lies in research. And that's what, Anita ma'am, we'd like to ask. Your student is asking, though this is a very student-specific kind of a query, but it will open up the students' minds. He's saying, my school is refusing me to study accountancy along with PCM. So
Yes.
is it a guideline from CBSE or a logistical issue is what the student is trying to ask. So I think
No.
through you could answer a lot.
It's a very interesting question. In fact,
Yes.
I will give you an analogy like this. For example, in our school, I'm talking of our school. If a child wants to become a commercial pilot, he wants to drop the subject chemistry. The child feels chemistry is not required. So with physics and mathematics, the child takes even legal studies.
Wonderful. Yes, ma'am.
So similarly in this, in case a child is not doing well in accountancy, yes, one can leave. The new NEP is only encouraging that there should not be any compartmentalization of subjects. It's an integrated approach. If you're not, say with biology, you can take legal studies. You can take the maritime law, aviation law thereafter. Different type, bio, patency. So many kinds of, specialized fields in the law are there. So we do encourage, in case you want to take biology, you can also take legal studies with this. Yes, to a certain extent, school do face, some kind of, logistic issues, like it's very difficult to set the timetable because
Absolutely.
we have a specified number of periods, specified number of teachers. It's not very easy, but we try to give a plethora of choices, the maximum choices we can give. Not only this, the vocational subjects also, like, commercial arts, food, nutrition and dietetics, financial marketing and management, they can also science. So these days, vocationalization is also being encouraged in classes, higher secondary.
Big time, ma'am. That's why we are seeing a lot of courses in the higher education system, which are around vocational studies now.
So many courses have come up. In fact, we are facing now problems, how to arrange, how to prepare a timetable. So this can be one logistic issue. No?
So I think, Anita ma'am, you'll agree that is also one of the reasons that in the last few years, very, very recent years, there's been a lot of flux, a lot of students coming in, going out, changing schools, because there has been a certain awareness which has come in students also that, okay, this is what I want to pursue. If I don't get it here, maybe there. So you also must be, as schools, this also must be a problem. I mean, you really would want to help your students offer as many programs as they want to take. But end of the
Yes.
day, as you rightly say, there is a logistical issue and everything has to be
Yes.
kept in mind.
Yes, and sometimes when the child does not get the desired stream, they might drop the school also. They can go to different schools.
Yeah, I'm sure
And
that
from the Neha, from the school point of view, for 2 students, we cannot start a new subject.
Surely, definitely, at least a strength of
So
10 to
that
15
that
students.
is what she meant by the logistics.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that completely, ma'am. And I think it's again an important message for the parents who do aspire the best for their children, and that tends to some kind of miscommunication sometimes between the school and the parent, because there is a certain aspirational value and a logistical concern here. So yes, a very important message again for everybody, that we are all on the same side. Be the parent, the student, the counselor, the school authorities. Ultimately, like Jeshri ma'am had said, the simple aim is happiness, joy to the student in the end of the day.
Definitely.
So wonderfully put. Dr. Venkatraman, are you there? I'd just like to give you one quick question and move on the webinar. Again, a very interesting question. I'm laughing looking at it. It makes me smile. It says, ma'am, I have multiple advisors when it comes to career and streams. I have neighbors, I have family, I have friends, and I have relatives, I have social influencers. Whom should I listen to? Whom should I trust, and whom should I follow? A very good question there, ma'am.
Yeah. I think listening to everyone makes a lot of sense. Okay, but filter all that you have heard, because ultimately the inner voice is what has to be heard. It's so important that children, because I think all of us have an inner calling, and there is so much of noise outside. So I think to filter that noise and know what is suited to me is super important. So let children actually develop that skill of understanding his or her own strengths and weaknesses before embarking on some suggestions that are being given just based on people's experience.
So true. So, ma'am, you're saying clear the clutter to at least hear the internal dialogue, which is so important, where we all know at the end of the day what interests us and where our strengths lie. But I think because of the chatter outside, which is so loud, like you said, be it from the parents, be it from the society, be it from the influences, as the student says himself, your inner voice starts dying down. So very well said. And I think both of you have said, Dr. Bhargav, as well as you, that the internal voice, or the end of the day, what your heart desires is extremely important.
And one more thing, Neha, I mean, I wouldn't know whether I'll get a chance to again speak about it.
Yes.
I'm very keen that children should go to school, okay, for 11th and 12th. Shouldn't opt for dummy schools. Okay,
Well
which
raised point, ma'am.
okay, because I think they just are disconnect with their peers, and it adversely affects their psyche. So I'm imploring every parent who is listening to this conversation to ensure that children go to school. 2 more years, I think you need to give them the joy of getting into school. It's not fair that we cut them off from the mainstream.
Thank you for bringing this up, ma'am.
Neha, if I may put in, along with the dummy schools that she spoke about, I think all of us will influence 10 other people, and sign a petition and put it before the government or the CBSE that coaching classes, we are not saying they should stop, but
Shri ma'am, I think it's a network glitch.
Yeah.
So I think it was a comment around students paying more attention to the coaching and the dummy schools. And Dr. Venkatraman, like I always say, ultimately it's called a dummy school. Please, it can never replace a real school, and your child totally needs it. I will agree with you there. Jeshri ma'am, you're back. We lost you for a couple of seconds, please. If you could go back on the last few lines that you said. It still seems to be a glitch. So as we wait for Dr. Jayashree to come back, Anita ma'am, may I please come to you for some closing remarks because we're around the end of the webinar. So your closing
Yes,
remarks,
it's
please,
important.
on what would you like to tell the parents and the students who are with us today?
See, my closing remarks would be selection of career is very important, very crucial. Parents should not impose their aspirations to the children. They should follow a very scientific method. We are in the age of, computers and digital world. Let us now change our psychology. Let us follow a more scientific approach. Take them, first of all, encourage your child. Let him or her follow his own passion. And in case child is not able to make up his mind, then please take him for the testing. I always tell my parents also, and here also this platform I'm telling that assessments, they play a very important role. Very important.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forth, ma'am, because coming from an educator, I think it makes more sense.
Yes.
I'm saying this
because I still see, sometimes, I am telling you a very interesting thing. A class 10 child, very brilliant child, he says, I get 100 marks in English, I get 100 marks in SST, I get 100 marks in science. You tell Anita, ma'am, मैं क्या करूं, मेरे तो सब में अच्छे मार्क्स आते हैं, तो मैं कौन से सब्जेक्ट्स लूं? मुझे तो मैथ्स भी अच्छा लगता है, मुझे तो सोशल साइंसेस भी अच्छी लगती है. तो very brilliant child. Of course, then the child went to humanities.
And that's very practical or a very real problem, ma'am. It's not imaginary. It is a problem.
So, kai par kya hota hai, after class 10, children are not in a position to make up their mind. So, at this juncture, the scientific intervention in the form of assessments play a good role.
Thank you so much for putting this across. And as a company which specializes in psychometric testing, I'm glad that an educator has pointed out the importance of psychometric testing, because mostly when we talk about it, people are very shut to the idea, unfortunately, because they feel it's just another probably avenue where we are putting in money. But no, this is a result oriented promise that we are making to you end of the day. Dr. Bhargav, you're back. Please complete what you were saying and give us your closing remarks on the webinar. You'll have to unmute yourself. Yes. No, ma'am, you're still muted. Yes, please.
I was just saying that let us sign a petition and put it before the government and the CBSE authorities that we are not asking to shut down the coaching classes, but they should work only after 2 p.m. so that the student attends school in sync with what Dr. Venkatraman said. And actually, as far as my closing remarks are concerned, I'll talk about not the subject selection and all, but related to that, a very in term that is there these days, ikigai, a reason for being. So it's a Japanese concept for a happy and reasonable life. I would request the students, advise the students to have this as a checklist before choosing your stream after class 10 or before making any career decision. Do what you love, do what you are good at, do what you can be paid for, do what the world needs, not today, but when you will be ready for your career. So these 4 points, if you remember, what I want to say in a nutshell, focus on something that you can do with passion as well as professionalism together. And anything you do must lead to excitement, comfort, and satisfaction at the end of the day, because that is what is going to keep you away from the Monday blues and looking for vacation, when looking at the calendar when the next vacation is. If you love what you are doing, you'll be happy, and ultimately what our aim in life is to be happy. So ikigai, the reason for being.
Very well put, ma'am, as always. Thank you so much. And another important thing I'll quickly pick from ma'am's answer, while everything she spoke was very, very relevant, but she said, what will you give to the world when you're professionally ready? Which is also a way of her saying that what you may be opting for today may not be relevant 10 years later. So please give it a very serious thought. what are the professions, what are the careers that are going to be relevant by the time you pass out and get into your professional journeys. Great point made as usual, ma'am. Thank you so much. Dr. Venkatraman, we are going to request you for your closing comments, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neha. I think happiness is the key, but happiness is best achieved when you are able to contribute to the world, to the society. So always see in what way you can serve the society. And the skill sets that you have should be in the interest of the community as a whole. I think that is the way to success and to happiness. So that is it.
Very deep message in 2 lines, ma'am, and I think it's a very blessed generation because they also have both of it. They have the skills as well as they have the opportunity to bring out whatever they have and present it to the world, whether you call it through social media or through various channels, but they do have an opportunity to bring it forth. With this, I thank Anita ma'am, Dr. Bhargav and Dr. Venkatraman. Thank you so much. It was indeed a very, very pleasurable conversation. I don't feel like letting you all go, but I must because I understand we have already approached the time. Hope to be in conversation with you once again sometime in life very, very soon. Thank you, everybody, all parents, educators, and students who've been with us. Thank you, Rare Pro, once again for having us all together for conducting this.